Okay. Request a resolution seeking private act and state legislature for authorization to place referendum June 7th ballot whether Rogersville election date should be changed in lines for the August or November general election. Have you checked on this?
I have. When I became aware of the item on the agenda, I spoke with the individual who wanted to put it forward, and it is worded this way because of opportunity for confusion. It is a request for, as I understand it, an advisory referendum, and I'm happy to kind of explain that now or let.
Yeah, I'll sort of say, hopefully my voice will hold up, but like I asked for this to be put on the agenda, so like I'll talk to Kevin about it some. I'll talk to the Tennessee Election Commission office as well. But I think we have a golden opportunity to put in front of the voters a chance to ask them if they would like the election moved from June to November. And I'll say the reasons why I think it's an obvious win-win situation all the way around here in a second. But I think the main takeaway is to let the voters decide on their own. And basically, this advisory referendum is not a mandate, but it would be basically. We understand it basically a survey type thing. It wouldn't be a required action, but you would hope that if the overwhelming majority of the voters vote for it, then the new mayor and alderman, whoever that may be, would take action on it. But basically, from my research, the election used to be held in like February from like the 30s to the 60s, and then it was moved to June. And it's on the first Saturday, in the summer when basically everybody's on vacation, and I just don't see that used to everybody came to business, on Saturday to do their business. They worked on their farms or whatever through the week, and they came to town to do business on Saturday. But this is 2025, and it's no longer the case. And matter of fact, as soon as school lets out, into May, most people are going on vacation. They're not thinking about, going to the polls and, voting in an election. And number two, the precedent's already been set as far as, like, I was on the Rogersville City School Board for 12 years, 3 terms, and that election is already in November. So, like, the precedent has already been set for the election to move itself. And then one of the most important things, like the last mayor and alderman election, there was 356 votes cast in the last alderman election. In contrast that with the last November, the presidential election this past year, there was 1,679 city voters that voted in that election. So you're talking 5 times more voters just on that alone. And not only that, but the state of Tennessee they stopped short of making it a mandate, but they are strongly encouraging, municipalities to change their elections just because of voter turnout and the cost of the election itself. Matter of fact, we're the only municipality still in Hopkins County that holds their own special election. They've in the Tennessee Code 65438's made it where you can lengthen. You can't shorten the term, but you can lengthen the term to align it with the August and November election. So, like, that they've basically taken away that hurdle. So basically, once we, as the city, pass the charter, then basically that there's nothing else that has to be done on a state level. And cost also, like, it's estimated to cost $45 to $50 per vote to hold the special election. So, like, for 356 voters, it's going to cost $45, $50 a vote at least. But if you move it to August or November, there's absolutely zero cost, because you're talking about having to have the county have people come and pay overtime, etc. on a Saturday, and I just can't you know, in my mind, there's no way to justify just numbers wise keeping it where it's at. Like, you know, you're talking about, you know, a whole lot, I mean, 5 times more potential voter outcome and zero cost, and the excuse of saying, you know, it needs its own special time and special election day or whatever. I just don't think in 2025 that's a valid concern, because, you know, we just went in November and voted on several, you know, local, state, national, you know, and people are very capable of making more than one decision at, you know, at a time. So I think at the very minimum, what I'm asking is for us to be able to put this on the ballot for this June, to ask the voters what they want. It's not really about what I want. I mean, I've stated what I think are too obvious of reasons to, you know, to move it. I don't see any valid reason not to move it, but the main thing, I think we need to allow the voters to decide what they want to do. And there are some hurdles. I mean, a few hurdles. It has to be, as Kevin said, I did talk to the Tennessee Election Commission office, and it's just kind of got to be worded very carefully, and timeline is a little bit of a crunch, but basically we would have to have, like, you know, the state representative, Senate representative. It actually ends up we'll have to go through both houses, but like they need a private act for an advisory referendum, and Kevin can.
I don't want to cut you off. I'm happy to kind of explain.
Yeah, I started to say if you want to explain the legal part, but yeah, that's
help avoid any confusion. This is not a request for an ordinance to change the election. In 2010, the state did amend statute that would allow a town, even with a charter like we have that would typically require a private act, to move a freestanding election to coincide with an even year general election. Okay, that is not what this is. Okay, it's not a request for an ordinance to move it, and it is not a referendum. A true referendum is an item placed on a ballot that requires a yes or no response from a voter that is binding, and state law only allows a referendum on a very few items, such as liquor by the drink, which we did several years ago. This is not one of those items that is permitted on. So what it falls under is something called an advisory referendum, which is a non-binding poll, essentially. It has to be in the same format of a yes or no response, and it has no legal binding, but it's placed on the ballot and voted on in the same way, I guess, just to gauge interest. To pass an advisory referendum or put that on the ballot, you do have to get a private act. And to have a private act, the first step is a resolution by a majority vote of the board to seek that private act, and it does have to be detailed in what you're seeking. And then that private act has to go through the state legislature like any other bill. And then it would have to come back and be ratified by the board by a 2/3 vote to be effective. And so to do that, it would at least be 2 meetings with the interim of how long it would take in the state legislature, which I guess is the great unknown. I did speak with the State Election Commission also on the timing. There's a state statute that says any general election item that's already, I guess, approved by statute has to be submitted within 75 days of the election. This is a different animal, and the election office agreed that it doesn't fall under that statute if it's a private act, but that time limit needs to be spelled out in what they said in the private act you're seeking. So, you know, if you wanted to say it has to be submitted within 60 days, then that needs to be in there. But they said from a practical standpoint, 60 days is the latest, in their opinion, that anything could be added, just because of mail-in ballots, or, you know, and everything that goes out and what has to be done. And then and that's from the state level. Also probably need some input from the local level too, but that's an April 8th date. So I guess in theory, if you could get everything done with the state legislature and back by March, in theory it's possible, but I had no idea how long it would take at the state level.
And I did talk to, state representative, and he seemed to think the timeline would be doable, for sure. So, I don't know, it's just my opinion. I think we got a golden opportunity that we don't normally have to. I mean, it's not a binding referendum, but I certainly think it'd be in the best interest of the town at least to find out where everybody stands on it. And plus, I think it would help, just be another thing to help increase the voter turnout in June as well. So, I mean, to me, and all the reasons I stated, I just don't see any reason why we wouldn't at least try to pursue it. I mean, if the timeline gets us, then, that's part of it, I guess. But I just want to see what you're all. I mean, I don't want to do all the talking, but I can.
Well, you do it pretty good.
Yeah, I can do that sometimes.
So if this went on the ballot and the people voted that, there was an overwhelming majority that they wanted to move the election, then from there, the board there would be an ordinance, correct?
Well, the board could pass an ordinance whether we did this or not.
Regardless, correct.
I know that can be
Right.
confused. This is not required in any way to do
Well,
that.
Yeah, I'm just
gauging interest.
Yeah, I'm just
Right.
kind of gauging interest. I mean, like
Right.
for all that matter, I guess we could vote on it tonight. And,
Yeah. But the process would be to pass an ordinance if it's to be
Right.
moved to an even numbered general election year.
Right.
To move it to any other date, you still have to go through a private act, but that statute does make it a little bit easier to line them up without a private act. In a term, it does allow for the term to be extended. You cannot, constitutionally, you cannot shorten it, so it would extend, the next term into an even numbered year, if that were done sometime in the next 4 years.
15-month extension on the term, if we went to that November.
Yeah, and it can go up to two years, I believe.
So it might be longer than
Yeah, I guess you'd move it from what,
that.
20?
17 months longer.
Move it from 29 to 30. Yeah, so I
And
mean,
it'd be another 17 months longer term.
just on that one term, then it would be.
And it'd be 4
Yeah.
years after that.
Yeah, and that's the reason they made that law to.
Well, interestingly,
even it out.
you can move it back one time with the same procedure. If you don't like it. So-
Really?
Yeah. But I mean, I'd like to make a motion. I mean, unless anybody else wants to talk, of course I'll make a motion and second, and we can still talk about it. But I mean, I'd like to make a motion. We put this, at least attempt to put it on the ballot. And see
I mean,
what
I don't
happens.
mind to get the public's opinion on
Right.
what they think. I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean, that's my whole point. It's like if there's nothing to that, I mean, personally, when I was going, getting my signatures to, run again, like I never had. I've not heard one person. I've not heard one person say they don't want it moved. Like, I've not talked to anybody that's not for this. I mean, personally, I've not run across the first one yet. But there's literally no reason. I mean, in my mind, like there's no financial reason, there's no voting reason, there's no valid reason, and I mean that's my opinion, obviously. But I would like to just rather. I mean, we could make a vote on it tonight, but I would really like to see what the voters and the taxpayers think. I mean, if it's a non-issue, it's a non-issue. We can move on and don't do it. But if it's something that people want, then I think it's what we
I'd
need
like
to do.
to second the motion to vote on it.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I
Any
say,
other discussion? We need roll call here.
I don't have to, but you can.
All in favor say aye. Those disapproved, no. Okay. What else you got?
One point I probably need clarification, because it does need to include the day or the time by which it has to be submitted to the ballot. So is it 60 days is the latest, that's April 8th. And that would be contingent on them being able to do it.
Yeah, and that would allow time to get it on there for the early voting too, right? I mean,
Well, I don't know, that's the latest
yeah.
they say they can do it. I guess in theory, if it came back, our next meeting is what day? March 11th?
Yeah, that would allow plenty of time. That'd be,
The 75th day is, what would that make it, sometime in late March, March 20-something?
so we'd be way, if we could get it done, and we'd be well within, if we can get it back in March, first of
I
March.
think I would probably suggest you word it by no later than April 8th.
That sounds good.
If you get it before, I think that will allow you.
Yeah. That sounds like a plan to me.
So we changing the,
I'll have to draft something.
no, I mean, we changing the, what they just voted on, I mean, I need to put in April the 8th, is that what you're?
There's a new motion, I mean, does it have?
Is
Does it require any
to include
motion
the date?
to include the date, or is that motion sufficient?
I just wanted we talked about that, I just wanted clarification, I guess.
Oh, okay.
That's the date, so.
I just want to make sure I got that.
I don't know if I'm 100% sure. As I read that motion back.
Well, they made a motion to request that we seek the procedures, which are going to be, Kevin's going to have to check into to do the advisory referendum, and you've got so many days, that's all.
Okay.
It would basically be what's in number 7,
Yeah.
and at the end say to be placed on the ballot by April 8th, 2025.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Let's roll call this one.
Are we,
let's-
okay. Dan?